And this morning, we're learning a member of the U.S. women's gymnastics team has tested positive for COVID-19. This comes after U.S. tennis star Coco Gauff pulled out of the Olympic Games after she tested positive. So for more on COVID's impact on the Olympics, let's go back to K-Mo in Tokyo. Kenneth Moton waving at me in the graphic. I love it. Kenneth, what do we know? Your hand's a little bigger in real life than it is in the graphic, Kenneth. What do we know about this latest positive case from the U.S. national team? Because they're playing it a little close to the vest.
They are. They haven't released many details. They haven't released her identity. But we do know it's a teenager. She was an alternate on the women's artistic gymnastics team. We do know that she was training with the team ahead of competition this weekend in a town outside of Tokyo. And then that's actually what we're seeing, some athletes who are actually based outside of this major city, outside of the capital city, and then they're coming in closer to their competition. We do know that another athlete that she came in close contact with is also in isolation and quarantine as well. And again, that shows the ripple effect that can happen, Diane, when it comes to a positive case. And so far, we know with this case, some positive cases in the Olympic Village, and also recently an IOC official from South Korea who was fully vaccinated testing positive. That makes about 60 cases of people connected to these games who have tested positive since July 1st.
Oh, and it's hard to think about these athletes training for years for this, and then to get all the way there and not be able to compete. Kenneth, Toyota's Japan's biggest car maker. Now that company's saying that it's not going to air commercials in Japan related to the Olympics, and none of its executives plan to attend the opening ceremonies. Why the backlash?
Well, we know, unfortunately, there are a good portion of people here in Japan. The Japanese people just do not want these Olympic Games. There's been a recent surge in cases. I think they reached more than 1,000 daily new cases last week for several days in a row. You're in a state of emergency. You've got coronavirus surging in this country. And as Dr. Alok Patel just mentioned to you, Diane, the vaccination rate is pretty low. We've got 20% vaccination rate for those for both doses. 35%, just slightly higher for those who've had at least one dose of the vaccine. And so those numbers could be higher. The Japanese people know that. And we talked to some Japanese people on the street in areas that we could be in today. We're in this 14-day media bubble quarantine still, where we can have to stay inside our private transport, but we can get out in certain areas. And there were some Japanese people there. And so I asked them, you know, what concerns do you have? And obviously the surge, using the resources, the medical resources, the hospital, the facilities here, and having, you know, tens of thousands of people, including 11,000 athletes in this country, you know, all over this next 2-week period, they feel like it will strain the system, and that the Olympics, the IOC, they're just not prepared to handle this influx here in Japan. And so you've got Toyota pulling out with those commercials. That is a big blow, and it also highlights the impact on the bottom line of these games. $15 billion to $26 billion went into these games, even after the delay, pushing it back 1 year, Diane. And so it really shows that the bottom line will be impacted for these games, and Japan will not reap the benefits, will not get that major economic boost that it was hoping for from these games.
Yeah, you have to feel for the Japanese people. The host country always spends a ton of money to put these games on, and they do so with the expectation that when they happen, the country's going to get a lot of attention. All of these tourists are going to come in. They're going to fill hotel rooms and restaurants, and they're going to make so much money, or all of that money back in tourism. And of course, this year, that's just not going to happen for Japan. So you really have to feel for the Japanese people on all of those fronts, Kenneth. And then over the weekend, the president of the International Olympic Committee talked about plans to help athletes connect with their friends and family virtually since they can't be there in person. What's the latest on that?
We know these athletes feed off family, friends, fans in the stands watching them. They're not going to get this. No spectators allowed. Family and friends are not allowed here. No foreign visitors are allowed in Tokyo. And again, no local spectators will be allowed in those venues as well. And so they're going to pump sounds. They're going to have immersive sounds, they call it, being pumped out of speakers from previous games at those venues. Similar to what the NBA, NFL, soccer, what we saw in the States and around the globe, what they did for all of those athletes at those games that we've seen over the past year when fans were not allowed in the stands. They're going to do something very similar to that. They're also going to have, Diane, what they call live geo maps of fans cheering athletes on, selfie videos from fans, and Zoom calls for athletes with their family and friends directly after the competition. And we know that the most decorated gymnast ever, Simone Biles, told us right before she took off for Tokyo that that was going to be the toughest part, not having her family there. They've always been there to watch her compete. And so having that type of immersive sound being pumped in, having the Zoom calls, hopefully that will help our Simone Biles.
Yeah, and all the other athletes that I'm sure are missing their friends and family right now. K-Mo in Tokyo, always great to talk to you, my friend. We miss you, but we like having you here on camera at least.
Diane, I hope you like my summer body in that graphic there, in that animation.
Very slim, Kenneth. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Kenneth.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.